Hello, everybody, and welcome to Beyond BMR. I'm your host, Bigfoot, Michigan Rob. Thanks to each and every one of you for coming on in this evening. Got a great show in store for you tonight. Ernie Davieau, Bigfoot Encounters, mixed in with some woo. We got it all with Ernie all night long. Well, for 90 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, however long we end up going. Thanks to everybody for coming in. I got to thank my lovely co-host, KRISTA from the Blondes and the Booze, sitting back in Studio B. I'll be bringing her up shortly. If this is your first time here, please subscribe to Bigfoot Michigan Rob on YouTube, the Blondes and the Booze Paranormal Podcast on YouTube, Texas Front Porch on YouTube. I don't give out the schedules. I'll give it briefly. Y'all forget anyway. You really do. Turn on the alert bell. Turn on the alert bell. Set it to all. You won't miss a show. I'm on Tuesday night at 9, Thursday afternoon at 1, Saturday at midnight. KRISTA and Brandy, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. 9, 9, and 8 Eastern Standard Time, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Texas on Monday, Wednesday morning, and Sunday in the evening. So check us out. Subscribe. Hit the like button. Hit the like button. If you like what we have to offer you, you want to help support the show, the Super Chat's open. Always a great way to help support the show. Also, you can become a BMR pirate. Matey. Join today. Join the many. Join the few. You get a picture of me with my bandana next to your name in the chat room. People seem to dig that. And I'll be putting out some members-only shows here in the beginning. Well, it is the fall already. Pretty soon, end of the month. So I just need to figure out when to do that, you guys, and what to talk about. There's always things going on, as you know. So thank you for all that. Find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and we're also on iHeartRadio and Spreaker. Actually, wherever podcasts are found, we are on. And for all you people that do listen on the podcast platform, I've been getting some messages. Not that you're confused, but every once in a while, you lose track of what's going on because these shows, for all you people listening on podcast, these are done live on YouTube. So it's a video format. So sometimes we'll throw up a couple pictures. We have a live chat room that we kind of talk and interact with the chat room. So if that throws you, that's what's going on there. But you still get the entire story. You still get the entire show. You just got to kind of figure out. I'm letting you know that's what's going on. So thanks for that. Also, really quickly, I got to thank everybody for buying my books. Of course, Bigfoot Michigan Rob presents True Cryptid Encounters Book 1. There it is. Well, there's Book 2 on the left. Book 2 just dropped a little over a month ago. Book 1 has been out for a little over a year. All you need to do is type in Bigfoot Michigan Rob on your Amazon browser. Leave a review, if you would. And also the link is also found on my YouTube profile page. And also it's posted in this live video. So thank you for that, you guys. And if you did buy the book already, help me out. Leave a review. It's all analytics these days. Analytics, much like YouTube, promotes the sales of the book. Like YouTube, leave a comment, turn on the alert bell. So thank you so much for that. I'm going to get the lovely KRISTA up here. Hi, KRISTA.
Hey, how are you?
I'm pretty good. How are you?
I'm doing good. I would be better if I could hear. My ear is stuffed up. Have you ever had that? I'm going to go and get it. I guess I had this 10 years ago, and I went to the doctor and they had to suck it out. But yeah, I got to go do that again because I can't hear out of my right ear, literally.
I mean, totally 100% you can't hear, or you're just lower than as good?
Just real low. I keep so if you guys see me playing with my ear tonight, because when I hold it out like this, I can hear. I let it go, I can't.
Okay. The only times I find I can't hear, KRISTA, is when I'm swimming underwater. I really can't hear.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also I get that on the airplane, which everyone get with the ear pop.
Yeah.
And then when if I get home from which hasn't been in many years, from a really loud concert, or if I go to some bar with a loud band, and you get that ringing, the muffled sound in your
Right.
ears. And I got to tell you what, not being able to hear 100%, I can tell you what, it sucks.
Yeah. Well, Brown Dwarf just says warm water and peroxide. I'm going to try that. Thank you.
Hey,
I have nothing to lose at this point, but I was going to go to the doctor and just see if they can fix me up. Last time it happened, it was like 10 years ago. Like I went to the doctor because I really thought I was going deaf. I was freaking out. Now I know what it is, but yeah, they just cleaned my ear out and I was fine.
Yeah, well, yeah, they do. You know, I don't want to get into it because it sounds gross.
Yeah,
But people do this wax thing in your ear. They do this warm liquid. You would okay. There's so much wax built up in your ears over years of being alive. I was talking to some person that had it done, right? Cleaned out. And I tell you what, he said it was kind of gross. All this stuff is like oozing out of his ears. Now they had it siphoned at the doctor's office, but the guy couldn't believe how much better he heard after getting that done, and said it was like a religious experience. He says to me, "How wonderful!"
Wow.
Yeah, so I'm not going to do that. I don't think anytime soon, but something to keep in the back of of your mind, all of our minds, really, for everyone listening, honestly.
Yeah. And it doesn't hurt. My ear doesn't hurt or anything. It's just annoying.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
I want to say hi to everybody in the chat room. I can't say hi to everybody, as you know, as the show goes on. We got Big Bird, Moon at Noon, Mickey G, Denise, Gary Spike Senior's in the house. Keith from Michigan, Paranormal Paul. Hi, Paul. I'm gonna miss you. It's Phyllis. Hi, Phyllis. New person. Again, it's Jason Finch. There's a lot. I'm just blasting through this really quick. There's over 50. There's almost 60 already. Mickey G, how you doing? You're all piling in. I'm sorry if I missed you. Steph the Contractor, how you doing? Greg Ogles, hey, moist. It's a moist day here in Michigan.
Missouri too.
And in Missouri.
Yeah, Phyllis isn't new. She actually
I know she's not new. I haven't seen her in a while, but yeah.
Yeah.
Hi, Phyllis. Hi, Diane. Diane Boss. Jojo from Australia. Hello, Jojo. Yeah. So, of course, Brown Dwarf. Well, I keep scrolling. I'll be doing an hour of the show. Just Danny State and DJ Tyler Radio. Good to see you, DJ. Boy, if I miss you, I'm sorry. Don't mean I don't love you. We gotta get this party started because I don't want to leave my guests sitting backstage. His coffee's getting cold already. I'm gonna bring up Ernie Davieau.
Hello, hello.
Hello.
Hey, Ernie.
Nice to see you, Rob.
Hey, it's great to see you too, Ernie.
Yeah, long time.
Yeah, it's been a while, Ernie. We were talking backstage a little bit. You were on about 8 months ago on the afternoon show, which was a great show. People really loved it, and so I was trying to, get with you the last several months. Yeah, we got, with the scheduling and everything, and so now you're on the night show, and I appreciate you for coming on.
Yeah, you're welcome. It's really hard for me to pick up a lot of the shows because of my hours that I work and everything. So I appreciate staying in touch with you.
Yeah, well, thank you. I know you're a big follower and supporter of the show. You always leave comments on Facebook and on these shows, and you're and I do appreciate that. If I don't say it all the time, trust me, I know you're out there, and I do appreciate your support.
Yeah.
So, and I appreciate everybody's support in the chat room and all the people that are also listening that don't come on in chat. Of course, I love my chatters. KRISTA loves the chatters. But you people listening now and not in the chat room and listening later, you really do help drive the show as well. So thank you to all you folks out there.
Absolutely.
So Ernie, we got a lot to uncover, lots to unpack, I should say, and you've got so many different cool stories and events. How about we go from why don't you just introduce yourself and give a brief background to everybody that maybe do not know who you are?
Wow. I just had to do a bio for an event that I'm going to next June. And that was, I actually had to have somebody else do it because I really can't do those things. Just kind of, you'll get the gist of it right here. But I'm prior United States Air Force, SSP. I've hunted and fished pretty much all my life until this event happened to me. I came out with this about 4 or 5 years ago to try to educate everybody on what it was, because I've always felt that there was information there, but it was my words is even I looked at it and I said, this is kind of bizarre in a way, and what do I do with it? It would have been a piece of cake, and you've heard me speak before. If I would have just said I seen one, the average eyewitness is between 5 and 11 seconds, okay, and at distance. But it wasn't the fact that I just seen one, and it went on and on. But that's pretty much it for me. At present, I'm a butcher. I live in the state of Ohio. I'm formerly from Massachusetts, and that's where I'm going to be doing talking next year. It'll be actually on the Scout Reservation in Russell, which is only just a couple of miles from where I had my encounter. And the Scout Reservation is located on the General Knox Trail. And if anybody's not familiar with it, Ticonderoga from the British. And then he took the cannons, tried to take the cannons back with him, but he went through that area that I like to hunt in, and they couldn't get everything through all that snow. Bad time of the year for them. But I don't know what else I could possibly say about myself there. I mean,
you summed it up, and I was going to cut you off when you say you live in Ohio. I mean, come on. I knew I was not going to make fun of you backstage.
Yeah,
I told you
okay.
that, but
that's okay. I got you.
And that's you. I don't mean to offend anybody from Ohio, but I went to the University of Michigan, and you know how it is between Michigan and Ohio. Ohio's a nice place to, fly over.
Go around.
No, I tell you what, though, I got to get down to Ohio because Ohio's got a lot of cryptid activity.
I was just thinking that.
Yeah, so I'm building up a fondness for Ohio from that aspect, because there's a lot, the Ohio howls we've heard about.
Right.
We've heard about Bigfoot down there and Dogman and some UFO sightings over the Lake Erie. So it's pretty cool. Thank you, DJ Tyler Radio, for that.
Thank you, DJ.
Yeah. You're starting to hear a little bit more about Ohio, just because of the past couple of years. A lot of people, they don't want to talk about their encounters, particularly online. So, they encounter some eyewitnesses that they believe in. They're more than willing to talk to the eyewitnesses. And a lot of people ask me, like, how many reports have I taken? I couldn't tell you how many. There's a lot of them, but I don't write any of them down. You just start off the report. You can tell me the person's name, start off the report, and I'll remember it in a heartbeat.
Sure.
So, and they're all interesting, and there's a lot of them around here because of the farmland, and you're going up into Amish country, which is another story altogether up around there. Who knows for sure? But it's very interesting here. This state adopted me. Okay. After I ran away from Massachusetts.
Well, I'm glad they took you in. I really am. I'm glad. It's another feather in Ohio's cap.
Yeah, I wanted to give them one anyways.
It all. I tell you what, man, it all started for you, didn't it? Back in Massachusetts. Massachusetts. That's a mouthful. I haven't said that in a while, actually. Yeah, and again, you like to tell your stories, and that gives everybody a better idea, man. And you had some frightful encounters. If you want to get us started with your first experience that got you involved with all this craziness.
Actually, it's just about like everybody else's. They seen the Patty film, and how long ago was that? And I seen it, and I figured, man, that's far away, and it's every kid's dream that grows up in the hill towns or out there in a hunting group, hunting family. You're always hoping to get the biggest deer or whatever, or see something really cool. And I did there for a brief moment in my life, hoping I would see one, but I realized that at that time that there was probably only one. They get the video of it. It's way out there, and probably I'll never get to see one. You know, so you wash a lot of things off when you're out there hunting or even hiking. You know, the little subtle things that are in the woods. And I shared with Rob before, and got a great memory, Rob. Being out there, I remember with the hunting party, my great uncle and my father, just to share with you guys on one occasion, he was getting a lot older, so he really couldn't go up where we normally went. And so we went to his hunting ground there, and we split up. And I believe I was about 10 years old. So I had my brother with me. He was, believe it or not, 9 years old. And we had one shotgun between the two of us. You know, that's pretty much how it is when you're growing up. You know, you learn to shoot the gun, you learn how to track. And we were told to stay on the fire road, which had probably 8 inches to maybe a foot of snow on it, pretty fresh snow. So it was a good thing for us to see. But we had a walkie-talkie on us, and we were told if we seen anything strange or anything like that, to click the walkie-talkie, we'd meet back up where we had split up originally, and we came across a set of footprints, barefoot, in the snow. I didn't know. I totally washed off Sasquatch. You know, I didn't think of it at all. And we clicked that walkie-talkie. We went back, and my father and my great uncle were there. They're talking in French, you know, so we don't understand too much. And they told us to stay right there. You know, that, of course, they asked us what we had seen. We stayed right there. They went up the fire road, and they came back. I'd say it was probably only maybe a half an hour. They came back, and they jibber-jabbered for a little bit. And then my father said, come over to us, and he said, we have to leave. We have to get out of here. We're not welcome here. We were told to leave. We can't hunt here. My mind at the time, and my brother's mind, because we talked, you know, it was like, you mean to tell me that 3 people with shotguns, a barefoot guy running around the woods up here, told us to leave in the middle of nowhere?
Right.
That was it. We just kind of washed off. That was just between my brother and I. We left. That was their wishes. We didn't understand it, and I've had many things happen up in the area that I where I had my encounter. On top of the mountain, there's a brook that comes out. It's called Drake Brook out of the top of the mountain. There's a lot of little brooks that come out of here and there when you go up around into the hill towns and stuff. And it was wintertime. I used to do a lot of tracking. I had topographical maps I marked off, the feed areas where they were bedded down. I would follow their rub marks on the trees and everything. And this one particular time, I was on a track scouting an area, and I had to cross Drake Brook. And I noticed that there was a hole that was punched in the ice. It wasn't cut in the ice, it was punched in the ice. So when you're tracking like that, usually you have a small pair of binoculars. You're going to be off that trail a little bit so you don't leave your scent on the trail, you know. So I'm looking at them around that area to see tracks, and I don't see any more tracks. So I went up to the brook where that hole was punched in the ice. And have you ever seen a hole that they use when they're ice fishing? And they use that auger, and it brings the snow and everything out like that. That's what it was like, but it was small, of course, but about the size of your hand. And it just struck me as something had gotten water out of there.
And also, really quickly, if you use the auger, typically, because I've ice fished several times, where you use the auger, you get a perfect. Usually, once you get good at it, you get a perfect circumference of the circle.
Yeah,
I imagine with the punch, you probably
right.
It was a little odd looking, I would imagine.
It was, but it looked like that slushy stuff was scooped out to get it off to the side so that it could get water out. It was pretty fresh.
Okay, yeah.
You know, and I'm thinking that there's poachers in there because we had found the warden used to send us into an area called 1,000 Acres. I don't want to mention where it's located because the warden would go in there, but there would be poachers in there, and we would have to go and locate them and come out and let them know. Or if anybody was lost in there, we would go in and find these lost people because, again, the warden didn't want to go in there. So I'm kind of like scanning the area for tracks on the other side of the brook to see if I can spot human footprints, boot tracks or anything like that, that'll lead me to believe that it was made by a person that's poaching or not. And I looked down at the snow, and the snow had rub marks in it, like something had brushed it out. So I'm still thinking that it could be a poacher. I'm not saying that it's not, and I'm not, you follow me on this, but now I'm thinking, what did they rub it out with? And I'm right next to some mountain laurel there, but the mountain laurel is a little bit out of my reach. Even if I really leaned into it, it's a little bit out of my reach, and I notice a branch on the mountain laurel broken off right there. So I scooched over a little bit, took the branch. I'm like, yep, fresh break, but I'm not seeing anything in the area here. That was just a little bit a heads up, because there's a lot of legend or lore to that area that is kind of scary for some people,
Okay.
and that's why I picked that area to go into, because I knew that there wouldn't be anybody else in there hunting, and which means it would be like almost like virgin territory for me. I didn't have to worry about them, and it was towards the top of the mountain. So, if anybody was hunting the apple orchards on both sides of this mountain, or just around the bottom out towards the Cabo Mountain region, they would be pushing those deer up towards me.
Mm-hmm.
All I had to do was get up in there and wait, and the deer are going to come across from one end to the other, and I knew where all the deer runs were. But that's just one instance up there. I know that we had an instance with my brother and two other guys where his vehicle broke down on it was an old dirt road that you had to go up a little bit to gain access to that mountain. And there was a stone there, a boulder, I should say. It's called Indian Rock. Okay. And it has 3 faces on it. As you approach it from the left, because it's facing out, it would be facing to your right as you approached it. And you would have one Indian painting on that rock. And as you got in front of it, it looked like another Indian. And as you walked by it, it looked like another Indian. So it was kind of our marker. But we broke down right there. His exhaust came off. Mm-hmm. And he was on a show talking about it a little bit. And he had to get underneath the vehicle. And this is getting really dark out. And it gets really dark up there in those mountains. And he was underneath the vehicle. And I got out of the vehicle, because I know the area, and I could hear something had jumped up, and it sounded heavy body, but I thought that maybe it was like, it could have been a big buck, or maybe even a bear, who knows, but I'm pretty sure that the bear are moving around. And I knew at that side of the mountain, the ridge there, that the deer like to use that once in a while to bed down. And then I heard branches snapping, and I heard what I thought was a bipedal, whatever, coming towards the vehicle. And I'd say this was probably maybe 50 plus yards out, but I could hear it, and of course he's underneath the vehicle, and I'm like, Brand, maybe you heard it from underneath there. And he's not concerned.
You heard it walking in out.
Yeah, you could hear it walking towards the back of the vehicle, where his legs were sticking out, and he was underneath there trying to put that exhaust up.
Okay.
And then I heard another one, and the first one picked up speed, and now my brother hears it coming. I mean, this thing was crashing through the woods. It was coming right at us, and he got the heck out from underneath that vehicle. We jumped back in that car, and we just took off down the road, because we weren't sure at the time. But that's just an example of, maybe you want to call that a Class C, or maybe even a Class D or a C-.
Now, this is still in Massachusetts, correct?
Yes. It's still in Massachusetts, and a lot of people kept their mouths shut on having any sightings up around there. They're Hilltown folks, so the only way you're going to hear it is if you're over in their area. Maybe if you go to the town hall, they would have the scouts there and things like that. But the town that I grew up in, we only had 38 people growing up. We had the little red schoolhouse, and all of that.
Wow.
Yeah. So you have that all over, like the New England area or around that area. They'll have their little school and everything else. So you're not going to hear a lot of stuff. They're very quiet. They're like family. Everybody's like family. But I'm going to say that area was very steep in history anyways. Like I said, I went there for a specific reason. You know, I don't like to go into an area to hunt, and there's a lot of people in there. And the Cobble Mountain Reservoir is adjacent right to that. You've got the Drake Mountain, you've got the Granville Reservoir, and the Cobble Mountain Reservoir. In the Cobble Mountain Reservoir, on the opposite side of it, I used to own, years later, I used to own a store there called the Blanford Store. And I remember one time a lady going into my store, she was whiter than a sheet. She was sweating. It was probably maybe 10 minutes after she just had an encounter. She was on her way to work, so she had to go down the Blanford side of that mountain. It was pretty steep, you know. Tractor trailers aren't allowed to go down that because they'll burn their brakes out. It dead ends, you know, out on the main road, and from there it goes right straight down a ravine into the river. But she was horribly shaken, and she told us what had happened, and I was thinking at the time that either she's drunk or she's having an epileptic seizure.
Wow.
So I got close to her, so I had her seated in a chair so I could smell her breath. I hope she hears this. I'm still trying to find this lady, you know. And I know she's been on a show. I don't remember what show it was, but I haven't been able to find her. But she wasn't having an epileptic seizure. She was not drunk. This thing came down. I know the road. It was only not even a mile down from my store, and it crossed out into the road and stopped and faced her car and put it. Both hands came right up to the front of the car. She stopped and put both hands on the front of her car, and then it left. And she described it, which was, you know, phenomenal. But again, I'm like, okay, you've seen one, and that was before my encounter, and I'm still washing it off. I'm still like, okay, you've seen it, but what? I mean, how do I really know that you've seen it?
Yeah, and through all these times, people are telling you about encounters that people allegedly have seen, and you're trying to and you're yet to see one, and you know about the Bigfoot. In fact, you're picking out these areas that are kind of creepy, where there's no hunters, there's not a big population. So you had been thinking, like, man, every time Dick and Harry comes across something, except for myself.
Well, yeah, in a way there, you know, but I'm a very skeptical. I was then also because I had done a little stint with Uncle Sam in the Air Force, and that was part of my job for people that know what an SSP is, and it was just taking information. Yeah. So, and then of course I fought, Rob, you know that, you know, a lot of tournaments, and so I had a lot of control over my fight or flight. So I was able to not get involved with the eyewitness anyways, you know, no matter what it sounded like. So I washed that off too, and my brother and I would take advantage at times and go up to the Cobble Mountain Reservoir that you're not supposed to be in, and fish, which you're not supposed to do. And we would play jokes on each other at night because we were fishing for bass using black jitterbugs, and I'd throw a rock over towards him. He'd be to make it sound like a bass hitting his jitterbug, you know.
Really quickly, man, I fished with the white and the red jitterbug. I don't think I ever came across the black jitterbug.
Yeah, quarter ounce. Black jitterbug, quarter ounce, works like a dream. You got to bend the side in that little metal things on the front, just a tad. Okay. And that just makes a wicked nice noise at night up there. And you just got to wait till you hear it hit, and that's when you're going to really hit them back. So I would throw like a rock over there and make it sound like that, and he would throw one back at me, and eventually you got to the point where I didn't know if it was him or not, but we were starting to have big rocks hitting the water, you know. But again, we never put all that together. We never really thought of that. So anyways, the day of my encounter, I mean, it was creepy up there. There's a lot of stories up there on, I don't want to really scare anybody because we're getting ready to do that thing in June. And this is going to be geared towards mainly children. The Bogle brothers do an awful lot of work donating a lot of money that they make to the education of the kids in the watershed, to teach them about the fishing, hunting, fire making, survival, which I push for, on a lot of the forums that, you should have a go bag on you. I see so many of you go out in the woods and you're woo-hooing, you're banging up on the trees. And if you're going to get lost, the person that gets lost is the one that's up there bird watching. You're not looking at everything around you. And if you get injured out there, you're going to be out there for 48 hours.
Mm-hmm.
That's for sure. And depending on your injury, it might not fare so well for you.
You know,
you carry a go bag.
48 hours would be dangerous for most people.
Well, it is. I mean, I went up Mount Shakora, I believe it is, Mount Shakora in New Hampshire. And we had just about summited, and you could see, it's on the presidential range, and you could see a storm coming in. Now, mind you, Mount Washington has the highest wind speeds ever recorded on the planet, or they did at one time, and the lowest temperatures ever recorded. So when these storms come in, you better have a plan and be able to execute that plan. And I seen one coming in, and we were way up there. And I'm not a big fan of heights whatsoever, but we vacated that just short of the summit of the mountain and got down on the other side, and we found a couple of people that were lost. You know, we knew that there were more lost. Okay. So I had gone all the way down to there's like a store way down at the bottom. It takes hours to get up there. So it took me hours to get down. And that's exactly what they told me. They are not going to come in looking for you for about 48 hours. They're not so sure. And it's dangerous for the people looking for you, you know, so go in prepared. That's what I'm saying to people.
Yeah.
Even if you're hunting or fishing, I don't care if you're getting out of your car and you're walking 100 yards down to a river, go prepared.
Yeah.
Don't be ridiculous. You get prepared when you're just going to go out and have a barbecue. Why not prepare for something serious like that?
And not to get too far off the subject, though, but I think it's good for everybody to hear. I don't recommend you even go hunting or fishing that deep into the woods by yourself. And if you are, tell people where you're going, and I would imagine have a locator on handy.
Yeah, you should. You should be able to read a topo. You should know exactly where you are. Bring a compass. Bring those little things just in case your batteries die on you. You hear these people say things like that all the time. Like, I'm out there, I'm trying to find Bigfoot, and all of a sudden, poof, I've got nothing. All my electronics, bit the dust. So now you're out there, and trust me, when you get scared out there, I admit it, I've been lost out there in the woods. I've gotten myself out, and it's not pleasant. Okay, you really have to remain in control of yourself. Otherwise, it could turn out bad for you. But you're going to ask a question? No?
No, I don't know if KRISTA was. No, yeah, I just wanted to bring that little public service announcement because, it's just like you learned in the Boy Scouts. If you were a Boy Scout, always be prepared. That motto is like ingrained in my head as a little kid, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And, the first things they taught you, even back when I was a kid, was read a compass, learn how to read a map back in the day.
Yep.
Now the maps today are so beautiful. I mean, you can yes, we have the internet, but hey, these phones, you guys don't work in the woods, depending where you're at half the time.
It's true.
Right.
So you've got to know, you got to be a outdoorsman. I mean, you've got to know the lay of the land.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not a woodsman, make sure you have a partner that you're both, know what you're doing out there. You read a first aid book. You bring a first aid book with you. Just reading it isn't enough until you actually have to do something. And if you have to do it on yourself, that's another situation altogether, But again, that area that I was in, the Cobble Mountain area particularly, that's off limits to everybody. And if you go in there, the Army Guard that's located out in Western Massachusetts, they know you're there. They'll come in and try to get you out of there. So something for people to think about. And they go, well, why would they not want to tell you about these beings? You'll hear me use a lot of words like that, and sometimes they call them beings, but why would they not want you? Well, really think heavily on it after you hear this story. In the Cobble Mountain region, that was part of the Underground Railroad. Okay, for African Americans, they actually made a town there just after, and they actually were told to take that off the map. They have 2 cemeteries there called Warfield Cemetery. The reason why they have 2 is because they didn't want people really going to the first one. All right. So it's a little bit of a distraction, but in that cemetery, there's a lot of headstones that say killed by the beast. Is there a relation there? I don't know. There's a lot of things that have happened in that area that we can't.
The headstones say killed by the beast.
Yep, killed by the beast. You know, so was it a bear? What was it? A cougar? I mean, there's a lot of bear up there. There's cougar, moose.
I gotta say something, man, to that. If I see a headstone that says killed by the beast, the first thing that comes into my mind is not a bear or a cougar or a mountain lion. It's what? I mean, I'm not gonna immediately think Bigfoot or Dogman but I'm gonna think what though? The beast. Yeah. I mean, I don't refer to a bear as a beast or a wolf. Yeah. I refer to him as bear or wolf. I don't call it.
To my mind, when I hear the beast, I think of like a demonic.
Devil. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I have to agree with the both of you there. I mean, I can't say that I didn't think about that because I certainly did. So I stayed away from that one little spot on the whole reservoir in that whole area. I said, well, if they get killed by the beast is over there. He's not over here with me, you know. But little did I know that I was going to have a run-in like this. And like I said, as I did my homework there and studied my topos, marked off on my topos where they were feeding, where they were bedded down, their deer runs, the whole 9 yards. And that morning when I got up, I wanted to get a weather report and everything too, which I did. So when I got up there and I parked my car, I knew that I was going to go in from a certain side because where the wind was blowing from an apple orchard on the opposite side. So I wanted to make sure I didn't go in on that apple orchard and put my scent all over the top of that mountain. And I recently met the people that actually own that farm, and they have indeed had encounters there. And it was actually part of it was in the Westfield newspaper. You know, they found tracks and everything. But I had entered where I told you about where that Indian rock is located. Just beyond that was my checkoff point to start going up the mountain. And it was like an old, we called them fire roads, but a lot of them were cut by the farmers, you know, with their tractors, all logging, bringing the logs out, things like that. And the Boy Scouts would maintain them. And I had found evidence that about 3/4 of the way up, there was I used to call it American Stonehenge. You know, my brother and I, because there's big, tall boulders there. And ironically, I found the deer beds in between these boulders. You know, it was really nice in here. You could set up a tent. And so that was my plan. I figured that's where they would be. It was on the side of the ridge mountain. They like doing stuff like that. Keeps them out of the wind that was coming over the top, or you know, whatever. And it was crispy out that morning. I remember it being crispy, but not really cold. I could see my breath, you know, which I don't think is really that cold from being up around there. And it was a little bit of frost on the ground. It was pretty mild. It was starting out to be a mild winter. It was the first week of December, and it was pretty much the last day of shotgun in Massachusetts. And so I'm being careful going up to those boulders because they're going to be just a little offset on that ridge from the trail that I was on. That trail, it turns out, is called part of Unkemit's Path, and that is the name of an Indian who would bring up the tax collectors from the colonial village in Connecticut all the way up through the hill towns to go collect his taxes or whatever he was going to do, you know. And part of that actually became, parts of it are probably the Knox Trail, because General Knox probably knew of Unkemit's Path. He had to have known of that. Mm-hmm. But anyway, I was pretty darn close to it. I wanted to really sneak in there, and it was a little bit crispy, but it was sporadic on the ground. You could see where there's some bare spots, but you could see where the leaves had a little bit of frost on them. So you had to be careful. And the deer jumped up, and I'm like, you know, but they headed straight over the top on the ridge, straight away from me. And I knew that this path I was on would parallel them. I'd have to go up just a little way and then would parallel them. And I made a plan that I was going to try to get out in front of them because I knew the area quite well. I knew the terrain that they had to go through, and I knew where I could set up an ambush. So my objective is to sneak by them. Now, on that trail that I was on when it started paralleling them, they were, even though they were running parallel with me towards that area, they were just on the other side of the ridge, so I could hear them, but I couldn't see them.
Right.
You know, but my thought is they're going to have better hearing than me, but they can't see me. So if they hear me, I've got to be like not only as quiet as I can be, but try to fool them. And one of the things that I learned was, if they're going to hear you, try to sound like a four-legged animal instead of a two-legged animal, and stop. When they stop, if you have to take an extra step, do it by making yourself by toe heel or whatever you want to do. It's better if you do it toe heel, okay? Doing it heel toe, which is the way you walk already, and they're going to know. They're probably going to know that. That's what I did, and I was hoping for the best.
Okay.
And I was still hearing them coming across that ridge. They'd stop. They were browsing. You could tell that. So they were calmed down, so they didn't get spooked too much. They didn't get a whip of me, you know. And I could hear something just off to their right, also almost paralleling them. And I just figured it's got to be a buck or something like that. That's the way my thinking was, you know.
Okay.
And I was able to get out in front of them. And that part of the path that goes straight down to the apple orchards, across the top of that ridge, all the way down the mountain to that farm where the apple orchards are. But up where I was going to ambush, hopefully set my ambush up, it dogleg. It took a big U-turn and it dogleg back down the other side, almost parallel to what I was. But it followed Drake Brook. That's where Drake Brook came out. In between Drake Brook and where I was on the original path, before I took up the ambush, there was a stone wall. There's stone walls all over New England. It wasn't a big stone wall. It was something that the farmer had put there for some God, who knows how long ago.
The stone walls outside the wood line by a farm then, or was running through?
No, they're all over the place. Them things are all over the place.
You can find them in the middle of the woods even then.
Yeah, you can find them in the middle of the woods. There might be an old cellar hole close by or something.
Okay.
200 years ago, you know,
Gotcha.
You just don't know, you know, why they did that or anything like that. I heard stories that it was actually from the soldiers. They built skirmish lines in case they had to fall back here and there, where, you know, that's probably also true. But as I got to my ambush point, I could hear the deer coming right at me. I couldn't see him, but I could hear him coming at me. So I'm a little bit excited.
Yeah.
And I just kind of scooched down just a little bit, taking up a position where I got my 12 gauge pointed where they're going to come through. I've already picked out possibly where they're going to come through over that stone wall. I'm going to bag my deer. But as I got up to that spot there, I just want to let you know is I looked at that before I actually got into position there, and there wasn't anything there. If I was looking for a squirrel or a grouse or anything that was going to take off from the ground and alert those deer, I didn't see anything when I came up to that spot. So I took up my position, figured it was good. I didn't want to move around too much. I didn't have cover. Between myself and that stone wall, there was some what I call old pine trees. They're big, thick pine trees. You know, the base of them are pretty thick, like maybe, you know, 3 feet round or whatever. There wasn't a lot of them, but there was a couple. Then the stone wall. Then on the other side, there was saplings where the deer were. I think there was beech nuts or birch nuts in that area right there. But as I got into my position, it was probably, I don't know, very short period of time, not even a minute. I noticed something out of my peripheral on my left-hand side. And next to a tree, but on the ground. And I said, oh, man. So I took a look at it, trying to remain cognizant of those deer that are over there, because I don't really know what it is. But the first thing that crossed my mind, it was only about 35 yards away from me. That's an easy shot with a 12 gauge with slugs in it. That's an easy shot. And I'm thinking it's maybe another deer laying down up on the top up there, you know. So I'm watching it, and it scrunches up to the tree a little bit more, but I'm still I remain cognizant, dashing my eyes over there at the same time. Now I'm thinking it's a bear, and I hear so many people say, "How could you mistake it for a bear?" Well, I got news for you. There's a lot of pictures on the internet where you're mistaking a whole bush to have 20 Sasquatch and drawing red circles and green and blue all over the place. You can mistake a bear for something else.
Absolutely,
You can mistake a stump for a bear.
Yeah.
And when you're out hunting, you better make darn sure of what you're looking at and pointing a gun at. But it scooched up to that tree, and that's when I thought it was a bear. And I'm like, "Oh God!" I said, "It's a freaking bear." And I don't have a bear permit, and if this thing notices me or gets wind of me or anything, I don't want it bum rushing me.
Yeah.
And I definitely don't want it scaring off my deer that are coming through there. So I'm still kind of eyeballing over that stone wall and trying to eyeball that, and it gets up a little bit more. And I'm like, okay, that's not a bear. That's a guy, because now you can really make out the silhouette of a human, what appears to be a human next to the tree, but low on the tree. If you got next to a tree and hugged the tree, and I'm like, okay, it's another hunter, and I'm like, I've got to do something here because I'm not in his peripheral. I wasn't in that peripheral. And them deer came. I'm figuring this guy was sleeping there.
Wow.
He heard the deer coming through, and he's getting up, but he's got his head on the other side of that tree, separating him from me. So I'm like, I got to do something here. I got to get somehow into a position that if them deer come over that stone wall and they go between us, that I don't get whacked. I don't get shot, because a lot of people like using that double-aught buck, and that stuff flies around everywhere, particularly at 35 yards. I didn't want to look like a piece of Swiss cheese by accident.
No, not at all.
Yeah. So what I did is I moved up just a little bit where I knew that I would be in his peripheral if that situation happened. And that's when I noticed that he was continuing to get up. And now I'm really, really thinking about, this is a big guy. This is a big man. And it was about right around that time that all hell broke loose on the other side of that stone wall. I want to tell people, back when I first came out with this 4 or 5 years ago, and if you go back, everybody goes back in their memory, they're going to know that this is back. Everybody out there was saying they don't get in trees. Okay, well, I got some things to tell you you're going to be shocked at right here. And other people are saying they don't eat deer meat, or they don't eat meat at all. Yeah, well, you're going to hear another shocker right there too, because when I came out 4 years ago, that's what I put up with. And, now everybody's saying, yeah, they do get up in trees. Yeah, they do eat deer meat. There's a lot of other things they do too. But he kept standing up, and now I'm looking at that tree. I'm trying to find a mark somewhere on that tree that I can mark it off, because I'm saying to myself, if this truly is a man, he's absolutely the biggest man I've ever seen in my life. And I need to just figure out for my own self how tall this man or being actually is.
You wonder if Shaquille O'Neal's out hunting in the forest.
I'm telling you, I've seen my father's brother was 6'11" and a half.
That's tall, man.
Wow.
385 pounds when he was on a diet. That's a big man. We're part Indian. Let me tell you something. I didn't realize that Indians were that darn big. I know the women were. The women. I had a great grandmother. She was 6'8" when she passed away. That's a big.
Wow.
That's a big woman. So, anyways, I'm like, geez, and crow. So I found a piece of moss on that tree, from the back of his head on the side of the tree, because he still had his head around the other side of that tree. Now I know that he's watching the deer on the other side of that stone wall, that he's set up somehow on a pinch point or something, that when them deer come through, he's going to try to grab one. I still have no clue. I should say I don't have no clue. I had a bit of a clue, but again, you're the way your mind works. You've got that fight or flight going on, and I'm about to be hit with Uncanny Valley. If you're all familiar with what Uncanny Valley is, I'm about to be hit with that because I have no idea what it really looks like.
Yeah, for Uncanny Valley, maybe a lot of people, I'm not that familiar. Maybe there might be some people on Uncanny
Yeah, I can explain
Valley.
it to you.
Yeah, please.
We can't accept anything that looks like a human being, a face. If we've seen a dog with a human face on it, people can say what they want. Your mind is gonna try to protect your psyche.
Yes.
Okay.
If I've seen a dog with a human face,
I'm a little bit worried. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Particularly if it's a dog. We won't go there just yet. Okay.
No, I know we're getting deep into this today. I get it. So.
Yeah. Some people say, well, why don't you give this to the BFRO? Well, I started to way back then. I'm saying to myself, this is like a book. This is like, it would have been easy, real easy for me if it was a 5 to 11 second encounter. I could have gone down to the local bar, got myself drinks for the rest of the day.
Yes.
Okay, I already seen a Sasquatch. But no, this thing had to wreck it for me. Okay?
Yeah.
It's watching on the other side of the stone wall, and now it takes 1 foot, puts it around. It's holding onto the tree with its right arm around that side of the tree that I'm on, and I know he's coming. I know what he's going to do. He sticks his head around my side of the tree, but he's looking directly over that stone wall, and he catches me in his peripheral. I'm like, okay, because he does a double take. He looks over at me, looks back over the stone wall, and then snaps his head right back at me. I'm like, okay, this is no man. This is not a human being, man.
No.
Now my mind is taking in all the information where that moss was.
And really quickly, Ernie, just like myself, and at that point, you can't process this right now because, like you said, your definition earlier, your mind is not believing what you're seeing. It's not processing it fast enough. You can't make it out. You're seeing something that's not supposed to exist.
Yeah, I have a little bit of time to suck in information. I'm grateful for that. Because now I'm at the point realizing that I don't know what's going to happen here. I got no idea. I have no idea. But if I live through this, I want to have a lot of information so that you all can hear this. And that happened about 37, 38 years ago. So I held on to that for a long time. And now you're going to hear the rest of it. I always bothered me. Why? Why me? Mm-hmm. I investigated me. I didn't investigate the go look, that so much. I investigated me all these years. Is there anybody else out there? But I'll finish the story here. It did a double take on me. And that was it. That was right then and there as it came around my side of the tree, fully facing me, that I knew exactly what it was. Never seen them before. I knew exactly what it was. This was no human being. This had to be a Sasquatch. This had to be a Sasquatch, because there wasn't anything else that I've ever, it looked like a cross between a Neanderthal, an African American, and a Native American. And it was big, okay? And I'll tell you that towards the end, how I measured it off. But it put both hands up in front of it, fingers pointing towards the sky, palms facing me, thumbs touching your pointer finger, and arms bent at the elbow, arms bent at about the waist, but the elbows were in. So the hands were not pushed straight out towards me. They were right out from its chest, if you can understand that, but bent, but facing me. And he pumped them twice. And I got a 12 gauge pointer right at him. I'm like, I don't know what the hell's going to go on here. Is this thing going to bum rush me? I know that there's something serious going on the other side of that stone wall. It's not deer fighting over there. They got a knockdown, drag out fight going on over there. Something really serious that he was interested in too. And he started walking towards me. And as he's walking towards me, he decides he's going to do another hand gesture. And I'm like,
oh, wow.
Son of a gun. I'm like, who is going to believe this? Who is going to believe this?
How many feet away was he from you?
He started off at 35 yards.
Okay.
Now, Sibylla Irwin did a whole thing with me, and she actually has an advanced Google Earth, and she was able to Google Earth that area, and she dropped a pin on it, and she said it's incredible. She goes, that where you're saying it was standing is measuring off on Google Earth at 38 yards. So, I don't want to copy that. I'm just saying.
Yeah, that's not, and at that initial onset, being that I coached football all these years when I was, a while ago, 30 yards for me is pretty short distance. I can see anything. I can pick out facial features from 30 yards. I can.
Yeah.
But that's me.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And so I'm picking up some of that, but it's kind of ironic because you'll hear more about the skin tone and the hair and everything.
Yeah.
But as he starts walking toward me some more, I started lowering my shotgun because I'm like, I started having this feeling of like, I'm like, I'm not totally putting it down. I'm not really trusting on it.
Yeah.
And he takes his right hand, his right arm, right hand, closed fist, pointer finger out, and points directly to my chest.
It's human.
Really
human looking.
And then he points to his own chest, the center of his chest, and I'm like,
man,
okay, what's he telling me? What's he telling me here? It seems peaceful, and you don't hear many of these, or you hear sometimes the opposite. And I'm like, okay, he's winning me over, and that's disturbing. That's disturbing because he knows how to win me over. He knows what he's doing. So I lowered my
manipulation.
Yeah, I completely lowered my shotgun. Now I got a sidearm on me. I have a sidearm on me, and I'm saying to myself, I'm getting the impression at some point I'm going to have to do something, parlay some kind of sign language back, and that's rudimentary. Yep.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I mean, children, babies try to communicate with their hands. It didn't know if I knew English or anything or its language or anything. So it's going to use what it figures. Well, come to find out, they know a lot about that area. These things know a lot about that area. You'll find out. But he continued walking towards me, and now he's closing the distance on me. And now,
is it a constant walk, or did he stop
it slowed down and picked up? It was pretty much a constant walk, but he'd slow down and then pick up. I don't quite remember if he hesitated. He probably did hesitate to see. I remember him looking at me like, do you seeing it? He's getting a response out of me, other than fear. I'm sure maybe he got fear out of me, knowing that I had the shotgun and everything. That maybe it would have been different. Maybe he would have bum rushed me or something. I don't know. But I was obviously giving him the response he wanted. Not intentionally, that's for sure, because I'm studying him. Now I'm drinking in everything I can about him. Hair color, skin tone, facial features. And he takes, again, pretty much where he had his hands when I told you that he had his hands up in the air, still just about the same spot, but he puts his palms down. Now they're about waist level, but palms down. And I'm like, dude, and then he takes his palms. All at this time is he's actually studying me too. He's waiting for something from me. That's where I got my impression that he's going to ask. He's going to expect me to return some kind of sign language. And I don't, think about this. Some people might think it's funny, but I'm thinking to myself, I don't want to tick this thing off. Appear like, that I don't understand. And then he turns his hands up. Now, that had me thinking, because the hands down, I took it as no food. The hands up, I took it as it wanted food. I think I got that, and it continued walking at me. And now it points to my left and it points to my right. And I'm thinking to myself, does it ask me where I came from, or is it telling me to go? I don't believe it's telling me to go, but it's still waiting for a response from me. And if it wanted me to go, it probably would have escorted me out or whatever,
Right.
So I'm sucking that part into, and now he's going to do one last gesture to me. And that last gesture, if I stood in front of another person talking to him like Rob or even you're going to stand about 2, maybe 3 feet away, he took his right hand and he put his right hand out in between the two of us. And I had to look straight down at his hand.
Yeah.
He had his palm up. And
Right.
some people, and at that point, I was seriously, I'm not bragging here, but I'm a trained fighter. I'm watching body movement. I'm trying to pick up everything about this thing. And I'm watching for some kind of flinch, body movement, something. You know, we made eye contact, but I'm making sure that I try to keep that eye contact. Watch the body move, the shoulders move, and I'm dropping my right hand down to my handgun. I carried a handgun. I've heard some people say, you can't carry a handgun in Massachusetts or in Huntsville. I got news for you. If I want to carry a spear, I'm going to carry one. And that day, whether they want me to or not, I'm
really quickly with the palms down, that's a sign of aggression, fighting mode.
I took that as he had no food, and they were, because of what was going on the other side of the stone wall.
Okay.
That's the way I was interpreting it. And when he put his palms up, the way he was acting and looking at me to see if I was understanding, I'm thinking that he was trying to convey to me that they had no food. They were hunting. They were looking for food.
Oh, gotcha.
You know, that's what I was thinking, you know. But when he got closer to me, and to this day, I mean, I'll leave it for interpretation for everybody out there. And this is why I do what I do. And I've already told you how close he was. I looked down between the two of us to see his palm. And he didn't have it hanging way down there. He had his palm up close to me, maybe about where my belly is. Okay. So I had to look down. I'm dropping my right hand down to my handgun. My palm just started reaching the grip on it. I could just feel the edge of my grip hit my palm. And he took his other hand and tapped his palm. I mean, he went like that.
Wow.
That caught my attention. And he looked at me dead in the eyes when he did that. That was it. I took my hand right off my handgun, and I'm looking at his palm now. I'm understanding that he does not ask me for my gun. They don't need no gun. You know, he's not asking me for the bullets in my gun, you know, none of that. Okay. So I'm studying his palm. And I hear so many people say, you know, they don't have this. Their hand looks like our hand. I was that close. Their hand looks like our hand. His hands are pretty clean. If you look at the back of your hands, or a man's hands, where you have hair in between your knuckles, he had hair in between his knuckles. All the way around. Where his hair is on the back of his hand, or our hand, that's where it is on his hand. That's where it was on his hand.
Right.
Hands were clean. Maybe they washed or something before they went on this hunt. But now I'm looking at his palm, and what I'm looking at on his palm, I'm seeing the exact same markings as you have on your palm, and I'd say just about everybody else has on their palm, except for one thing. He had no lifeline, and that's what a lot of people can't accept right there. You know, they want to say that they have. You think about it, that their thumb is way down over here, or nah. Even some of the No, that's not what I've seen. His hand is really big. Maybe it was just a tad lower, but proportionately, its thumb would go up to where your thumb goes on your finger. Okay, so it can access. It can do a lot of things with its hands, but that's what I did not see was the lifeline. Now I'm figuring, you know, I got to do some hand gestures back here.
Okay.
You know? And I'm like, I got no food, you know. I did the chest thing to him, and the no food, and then I pointed over his shoulders. Now, I'm standing next to him, you know, and I came a little bit below his shoulder, but a little bit above his bicep. Okay, so I wanted to, just in case I didn't get to that tree or for whatever reason, that I would at least remember that part of it. And that's when he looked at me and he nodded. You know, he had taken a quarter turn towards that stone wall there. And he looked back at me and he nodded after the pointing and everything. And he put both his hands up to his mouth and he let out 3 whoops. Yeah. Now, in those 37 years or 36 years that I didn't come out, I've never, ever heard anybody say that they seen them whoop. It's not out there. Nobody's ever seen them whoop. So, you know, that was a really tough thing for me to say all this stuff and then say, I seen him whoop. He whooped 3 times. In between each whoop was about a second and a half. It's something I'm good at. You know, if I hear bells off in the distance, it's just something that I do. Maybe I'm some kind of a savant with something like that. I know how many rings. It's like shooting a gun. You know how many bullets. You should know how many bullets you shot off. He looked back at me, made the same gesture with his head, looked back over there, then he whistled. I'm like, yeah, here we go. You know, yeah. When I came out with this, now you hear everybody saying, well, they whistle. Well, you don't know that because you never seen him do that. I know that. Okay. Now everybody obviously knows that. All right. And he made a hand gesture. 2, we'll just say at that point, I wasn't really 100% sure how many were on the other side of the stone wall, but it was like, and he pointed back in the direction that he came from after he whistled. And the whistle was exactly like a person. Okay. It was the kind of whistle that we would use in our hunting party to locate the hunters that were hunting with us. You know, if I had come across something that was that I knew deer was fresh track directly in front of me, I do a little whistle over to the person on my right that I knew was closest to come over, move in, or whatever, come over towards me. That was the kind of whistle, you know, and I hear that. And there's other animals out there that are capable of making like a whistling type noise, but this was very, very human-like whistling. And he gave his final look at me, and he went back off in the exact same direction that he originally came from, past that tree, carried on past that till he was, I figured, probably about the 55-yard mark, somewhere around that. Got there and turned to face me. It was right at that moment I heard something coming through from the other side of that stone wall, through those saplings. It never came over the stone wall. It went over the corner of the stone wall, which I couldn't really see because of the saplings, crossed the little pathway there, over Drake Brook, and now I picked it up because it's kind of clear out there. It's a little bit more clear, you know, it's not so heavily wooded, and it's headed right towards this other one. And I'm like, holy cow. And it got all the way out there, and it's facing the other one. It's on its right-hand side, my right-hand side, so its left-hand side. And it was cinnamon colored, and it was taller than me, but it was shorter than him. It just came up just a little bit above his shoulder. So you can guesstimate that. I've got nothing but that, guesstimate the height of that one there. But it was cinnamon colored.
It really briefly, how loud, when you let out the whoop, the 3 whoops?
Loud.
How loud was it? Like ringing the ears, or like it wasn't a casual conversation?
When he let out the whoops there, it was like deep bass, loud, like if you went down to a zoo and you stood near the lion's cage and you heard that roar starting off like, woo. I can't even duplicate it. It was a bass, like you're at a good concert and you're standing next to that bass there, and you can, if they got it up high enough, you know how you can put a can on there and you can see it vibrate. You can feel that vibration. I could feel that vibration. It was that loud, you know.
Wow.
Yeah, it was loud. And so that other one got over to him, and now they're kind of 45 towards me. They're kind of facing a little bit towards me, and they start jibber jabbering. That was, I had never heard the Sierra sounds until sometime after, because I started trying to find something. There's got to be somebody out there, you know. And I'm like, oh my! I said, Ron Moorhead doesn't know what he's got. I've never talked to the guy. It's my bucket list. I'm like, that's them.
He's a very nice man.
Yes,
I love Ron.
Do that. I could hear him do that, and I'm like, oh my gosh, you know. And the big one, he points towards me, like take a look at that. He's ratting me out because I'm still standing. You know, I'm thinking, so seriously, for people to hear this, and some people say, why would you do that? I'm saying to myself, up to that point, I'm saying to myself, if they continue on, I'm going to go track them. I want to know more. After all this had happened, why would you not want to know more? I'm like, I want to know more. Where did they go? Did they sleep in a tree? Did they sleep inside a log, underneath a boulder, a cave? What is going on, you know? And I think that was a little chewing out he did, because he ratted me out. He pointed me out. And the littler one had to put its head down just a little bit because there was a sapling with a branch coming out of it. And put his head down just a little bit, and he looked at me and looked back at him, and then it did a double take on me, like boom, double take. And I'm like, yeah, I think the big one's now. I'm thinking, today, I'm thinking the big one was yelling at him like, how did this guy get by you? How did that happen?
Were they both male? Could you tell?
I'm going to tell you all the truth. I mean, I've heard stories, and I believe some of these stories where they checked it out and make sure, it didn't have breasts, okay, but they checked it out and make sure to see if it had junk or whatever, and it was checking me out. But I mean, I'm wearing clothes. I'm not checking it out. I don't know what's going to happen here. Yeah. I didn't want to give this thing the wrong impression. Right. I mean, so I don't remember.
You didn't want to think that he was swaying that way. You didn't want to have a lover.
Yeah, no. I'm not going to be cellmates. No, no, just like cave mates or whatever. We're not going there. But he points to that one there, and he gives a hand signal that he wanted him to do like a circle out to my right hand side, a big circle out to my right hand side. And I'm like, oh, and then he points to his own chest. Now I don't know if that was for my own thing that he's doing that, because he didn't really have to do that, but he pointed to his chest and did that same gesture out to his side and around me like that. And I'm like, okay, this is probably not so good. I know that they most definitely, if there's another one over there or whatever, I don't know, but they definitely got a deer or something over there. I'm not going to go over and check. They probably don't want me to go over and check, so let's not get crazy here, and they split up, and I figured that was my cue. Excuse me, that was my cue to go over to the tree that it was standing at and measure up on that tree.
Yeah.
And there was two things I had to do. I had to measure up in the tree that I seen where it went through this old vernal pool. It was dried out, but it had like ferns or whatever there. I was going to try to find track, and there was some ferns pushed down, so I knew that's track, but it's not really nothing that you could do anything with, but I knew what it was. So I got to the tree, and I found that mark on the tree, the little piece of moss, and I stood up to that tree and, face it, so I put my hand on top of my head and then take a little half step back. And then from that spot on, measure up to that point with my fingers. I work as a butcher, so I understand what an inch is on your hand. And I measure up from there, and I got 7 foot 8 inches. Now, maybe I'm off by a little bit, but I got 7 foot 8 inches tall. And then I wanted to check the track. And some people are going to say, well, did you get down on the ground? It's easier to see a track. No, it might be easier to see a track, but how do you think rabbits get whacked? You can't see over the ferns or anything else. I wanted to make sure that I still kept an eye and my ears open on what's going on around me. I see where the ferns were pushed down, so I decided what I was going to try to do is make that big step, because that would kind of tell me if what I'm seeing on the tree and measuring up on the tree is real or not, a true measurement. And I couldn't make that step. I tried my best. I couldn't make that step. So I decided I was going to take a short jump from that standing position to land in that track. And I still couldn't land in it. I fell short of it. So I decided I was going to back up just a little bit. I don't know how much time I would have left to get out of that area. And that's why my spidey senses started tingling. So I made a little jump, and I still couldn't make it. What did it look like? Well, being that close to me, I can tell you that my first impression of its hair, I didn't know if they had hair or if they had fur,
right.
But my first impression when it was next to the tree, I thought it was black. And, for anybody watching right now, you obviously know that this right here is like white or gray, but you know that my eyebrows are not black. They're brown. Okay. They're brown. All right. They're dark brown. And that's what I noticed when he got really close, because the sunlight had just hit him just right on his arms, where I could not only see the length of the hair on his arms and where it was, but I could see the actual, it now took the hue of like a really dark brown, but there's something about it where I was like, you can dark brown, you can pick up that reddish tint a little bit maybe in there. So I like to go with just the dark brown, now knowing more about the hair and everything, it could actually be true. And the other one's cinnamon colored. Its skin tone matched its hair almost perfectly, if not perfectly. So at 55 yards, you wouldn't know where hair stopped, how long it was, and skin was. That'd be very difficult, even on his face. I've got no. I couldn't describe the face of the other one because at the 55-yard mark, obviously it's
that's. I said 35 yards is probably my range. 50.
Yeah.
Nah, you're.
55 yards. You can think you are, but that's your mind playing that
Right.
uncanny with you right there.
That's true too. Yes.
And you got the fight or flight going on, so you got to maintain all of that. So I couldn't tell you what the other one actually his facial features were, but this one here was close enough, and its skin tone perfectly matched that hair color. You can where you look at a man and he has hair right here. I don't know about you, Rob, but I have to shave all the way up here. And down and everything. Pretty much, it was not as much hair up here, but it had a little bit of hair here, not much, but it had a little bit of hair here, kind of scraggly. And his skin tone was just. I tell people that it was like Jamaican person, just dark brown. It's not black, but it's just dark.
Dark. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, the other thing about it was I already described its features, but the other thing that I have not said yet is it had blue eyes.
Oh wow!
It had blue eyes.
Wow.
That really stuck with me, and I've been asked the color of blue, and it's really hard to describe. But not too long ago, I came across a good way to describe it. Take a look at a husky. A husky.
I've got to ask you this because this comes up quite often. The communication was fantastic, with the hand gestures and movements, and just you knew, and you got a sense for what he was trying to tell you. Did at any part or any time during this encounter, brilliant? Everybody's loving this, by the way, Ernie. Everyone's like loving this. You're doing a great job. People love you. Was there any point where you think it might have tried to communicate to you outside of nonverbal? I guess what I'm getting at is anything, sense anything in your mind is it's trying to mind speak with you or melt anything at you.
I got you. Let me describe how I felt, and the best way, the analogy I can give you is,
okay,
if you've ever had a child, and they can't really speak, they're not old enough to really speak for words or anything, so they're going to use their hands a little bit. But what you do, you do that. You do something like that, or you'll go like that. A teacher does that to see if the lights go on, and that's really a communicate. Like, you understand, and kids will pick up on that, and that's pretty much kind of the way that it treated me. So yeah, there was something going on that was let's call it history for me, because I've experienced those things that we learn facial expressions.
Yes.
Okay. With adults, that's why the mask was so bad for everybody, particularly kids. They can't see your facial expressions.
Right.
So it was doing that, and by nodding its head, respect, or you understand. I think the last ones were more of respect, towards me. The hand gesture in itself, it was something I had to interpret. There was a feeling, I could feel something, but is it a knowledge that was based in me from maybe my history or something? It just felt so calming to me, like it like I understood it, so I don't know if that means anything to anybody. Did I hear voices? No, I don't recall hearing voices at all like that. Maybe it was more subtle than that,
Wow.
I just threw it out there because we have so many people that bring that up during an experience with a Bigfoot, a Sasquatch, and I didn't think this was the case because it certainly did a great job at non-verbally communicating or non-verbally communicating with you physically, where you knew after a while you both were communicating though.
Yeah. Now I'll say this for everybody that's out there. Do I think that they can? Heck, I think that there are humans that can. That we've been through your pineal gland. You know, it's been clogged up like an old drain pipe. You know, I mean, we can go way into this on everything that I think, based on what I've learned over the years, right into quantum physics, like Ron Moorhead. We can go right down that. Is it possible? I've had a long time to think about that, but for right now, we'll leave that up to those people that are listening, that you might want to think about some of these things. It's very possible. I'm not going to throw it out of there.
I think anything's possible. I think some people have.
Yeah, very, very, very well. Yes, absolutely. Do people actually hear them speak English? Well, we're not done with the story. Okay.
Well, everyone's loving this story. I love these long stories. Everybody loves it. I need 20 more likes, everybody, according to some of the people in chat room. Thank you for that.
I've always felt that I was in the epicenter. I had no idea that they were up there or anything like that, but it was a feeling that I got that they were around there like a family unit. So maybe that was the type of communication they were giving me, is that they were up there, they were hunting, and it's a family unit or a clan even, you know. And then from further studying it and trying to find accounts in the area and remembering somebody that hunted with us one time telling me that they seen 2, 3, 4 of them crossing an old farmer's field with the old barbed wire way down the end early in the morning. That's pretty much what we have evidence on, that their family units are around 4, maybe even 5. I mean, look at some of the animals that are out there, you know, like deer. You know, if they have twins, it's highly unlikely that both are going to survive. You know, so you've got to think of the survival thing that's going on there. And the feed, the types of feed, is amazing that they do eat. We do have a researcher in that area that I've known for quite some time. But the communication thing, they have been known to repeat people's names. You know, so is it feasible? Is it feasible that when you hear somebody like missing 411 David speaking, you know, what would make you put your gun down next to a stump? A seasoned hunter, just put it down and get up and walk off. You tell me, did this actually win me over? Could this have actually had me follow it or walk away with it? And then, hey, it might be easier to have me walk to my demise than drag me to my demise.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I throw it in there, but
it's well way to look at it.
you have to go down that road, you know. Just don't give up, folks. Put up a struggle, you know. But, yeah, and his hands were clean, and people have asked me, well, did it smell? No, it didn't smell at all, not at all. And I had the wind. I remember looking at my wristwatch. All I remembered now is it was 10 minutes after the hour. I remember a plane going over me. I remember checking my breath. I remember smelling my gun when I had the gun up the first time. Am I hallucinating? What is this going on? You know, I had a compass on the shotgun. It was a hand-me-down from my great uncle. Folks, don't put your compass on a steel gun. It doesn't work very well. You know, there's parts on it that your compass will always be pointing. If it remains magnetized, it'll always be pointing where your gun's pointing.
Ernie, I'm sorry, really quickly. Jojo asked how tall the Bigfoot was, if you can recall.
7 foot 8 inches tall, and I guesstimated him. And remember that my guesstimations are based on experience, and I used to fight a lot, a whole lot, more than your average person in tournaments, and I guesstimated him at least 500 pounds, and very, very, very healthy. Now that cinnamon colored one that came over the broke the wood line, went over Drake Brook there. When I say fast, I just love to hear the stories. I hope it never happens in person to me. I hope I don't even crack a smile. You are never going to outrun one. You are out of your gourd. This thing let you go. It scared you out of there. This thing can run a deer down. Absolutely. This was a like a parkour fluid, just heels and elbows, just zoom right over to the other one, like unbelievable. So that's just for people to realize. I've heard so many people say, well, we have extreme human beings. Yeah, you can have an extreme human being. You can have the world's strongest man. Let me see him run that fast. Let me see him run that fast for a mile.
I will tell you this: is 7'8" or so, right around 500 pounds, they can run down a deer. That is just something that's
big.
You cannot process that.
You can't. It's absolutely, yeah.
And I would imagine it's effortless. I bet the gait between each stride is probably 4.5 feet.
Right.
Running. I would say that one that I saw running, the cinnamon colored one, was far over that one.
Wow.
It was more than 4 or 5 feet stride.
No kidding.
Okay? I've seen deer on the run cross 20 feet because they'll like jump or whatever. This thing was just fluid. You look at the first one there. When I went over to try to measure the stride on that, I'm 6'3", and I couldn't do that. Even when I took a little jump, I still couldn't do it. When I backed up and took a bigger jump, I still couldn't do it. So taking a bit of a jump from maybe 2 feet back, you should figure a 6'3" man could probably jump 4 feet. I don't know. Maybe they can, And if this thing was leisurely walking away from me and was doing that, running, man, I'd have to easily give it 8 feet, 9 feet, at least that running. It was amazing. I've had people say, well, you should feel blessed. Well, I don't know. I don't, in a way, because it's been a curse because of the things that I witnessed people being bullied and everything else on a lot of forums and a lot of jokesters and hoaxers, and those people are what I was, and that shut me up for 37 years. So you can only imagine if you would have heard this 37 years ago, if I didn't get locked up. Can you imagine where we would be today in this research? Can you imagine that? What would we be doing? Some people come out and they say, well, what makes you think the government knows about them? That's like a conspiracy. Really? Well, the area that I was in, they've been known in the Cabo Mountain area, the Army National Guard to come in there and get you out of there in a helicopter. They know right where you are. I know people have been removed out of there. I've been in there. I've never been removed, but I got to tell you what, it came really close. They knew where I was, which tells me they have ground sensors in there. And if they have ground sensors in there and they knew where I was, I don't weigh 500 pounds. Those ground sensors are made so they know between a rabbit, a deer, and a human being. And they know they're in there. So why would they not want you to know that? Think about that. We stop people from doing forestry in certain areas or building a house because of a lizard. Now you're going to take something that looks very, very human-like, acts very human-like. It is actually very intelligent because we are beyond, some of us in research are beyond the hypothesis. It's funny how science, it always jumps over that. They'll talk to you about it, but they jump right over it, right to theory. Well, we're working on theory now, and our theory we're working on is behavior, why they do some of these things and everything, So,
I know.
If that's
government.
Go ahead.
I know the government. Okay, when I say I know, no, not as fact. The government knows about all these cryptids, not just Bigfoot. And I believe that a lot of these forests, state parks are monitored, as you said, by maybe it's not, our government, but it's a branch of the United States or it's a branch of the world, if you want to get that deep into it, that know. And they've got, as you said, maybe I've never thought about the sensors out in the forest. That's a great idea. I never thought about that one. It's like, how do these, you hear so many stories about a helicopter coming in and getting somebody out, or they're getting a group of Army Rangers out. What were they even doing in the forest? It's not the wartime. They're not on maneuvers there. They're on maneuvers at their own places that are set up by the United States for them to do maneuvers away from the human populace.
Yeah, so I put it out to people. It's like, what if this is what's going on? If you're going to stop somebody from building a house because of a lizard, can you imagine what would happen if somebody by chance had an encounter with one of these things? Let's say the government said, yeah, they exist. Okay, if you have an issue where something happened and one of these things went rogue or whatever, got really mad, might be a little tipsy from eating some apple cider or whatever the case may be, and hurt somebody really bad. Because there's a lot of reasons why these things can and do happen. Okay, they can be aggressive if they want to over certain things. So let's say that happens. Now they got to send in somebody to get it, to put it down, whatever the case may be. Really, that'd be like walking into somebody's neighborhood because they stole somebody's newspaper or whatever. It's not like they do with a bear, because this is so human-like. If they admitted to that, now they're going to have a major uproar with everybody, a major uproar. Okay, they can't have that stuff going on. Absolutely not.
Right.
So I'm just saying, what if maybe that's the reason why they don't want to admit it? It could be.
We all say what if, don't we? I mean,
yeah.
Right.
What if the government has these things locked up in a cage somewhere? I believe we've got those. I believe
they do.
I believe we've caught them.
There's a lot of items that are being put together. I talk to a lot of people and I tell them, I say, you listen to my story. It's just a story. It's just a story, your bedtime story. So you can go to bed tonight and you can have a nice little dream. Okay. But did you get anything out of this? Because if you heard anything that I said and you're hearing correlations with other ones, then it's more than a story, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's only Gilgamesh till we find evidence of Gilgamesh.
Right.
Okay. And this is it right here. Yeah, they would have probably locked me up a long time ago, or who knows what would have happened, but I've had a long time to think about it. But I've also known this whole time that I had a message to give to everybody. And some people take it seriously and some don't. I think there's and some people might want to call this a woo. Part of them that's talked about in by some Native Americans who call it prophecy or legend or whatever, that in the final days, Big Brother will come again to dance around the sacred fire with us in the final days to fight the last battle between good and evil. So maybe on a spiritual level, if you'll find, and it was one of the questions that was asked to me by my wife, what was your state of mind when this happened? I really had to, you can only imagine, I really had to really think about a lot of this. And I found a correlation with a lot of the eyewitnesses. Kerry Arnold. What was his state of mind? I interviewed him. What was his state of mind? I know what it was. It was the same that mine was. It was the same as a lot of the eyewitnesses. We weren't out looking for him. Our state of mind was becoming one with what is out there. It was a very spiritual thing that we were doing, and I believe that they like that peace. They like that serenity. They like that spiritualism. And I'll just give you a good encounter taken by some people in Salt Fork, and they were all camped out there, and it happens to be Paul Frazier's group. Okay. And they had, the tents were a little bit spread out, and they had a couple and one other individual, younger people, that were drinking and fighting. And they had a few things going on that day and stuff like that. They knew that they were around them, that these beings were around them. But now it's nightfall, and they got a campfire going, and these three people are arguing, and they're drinking. Okay. All of a sudden, over from where they are on their side, they're getting like bushes shaken, trees smacked, acorns thrown at them, and now it develops into throwing little rocks at them. Well, they packed up and got out of there. To me, that means that they do not like that. And from other eyewitness encounters that I've taken, the same thing. So when I say we are going into the behavioral aspects, now beyond the hypothesis, going into the theory in general, that's where we're working on it. Why do they do these certain things? And is it adolescents doing it with the adults, and the adults teaching them that? What's going on there? But the area that I was in, and I say that about the epicenter, I'm learning now, and this we're going to be doing a talk, speaker at Camp Moses Scout Reservation in Russell, Massachusetts. And that is where, I think we talked about it in the beginning, General Knox, on his way back from beating the heck out of the British at Fort Ticonderoga. That's where he came through. He was taking the cannons with him, and he had to abandon the cannon, or a couple cannons maybe, because of the snow got so deep. It's wilderness there, and there's many, many accounts in there. The gentleman that's doing the research in that area, JJ Squatchman, he also has a site called Winstead Wildman, which is one of the oldest cases that was documented in the New York Times at one time. And the things that he talks to me about that he's finding there are absolutely incredible. We probably know of just in that area. I'm going to just say, let's just take a 5-mile area where I wasn't draw a circle around it. Probably at least 20 accounts. Eyesight accounts, Class A's. Okay, all together with the Class A, B, C, you probably all the way out to Greylock and stuff. You got to have well close to 100 encounters right in there. And what is in there?
You know, you make a great point earlier, because you were talking about, well, first of all, a lot of things you said, a lot of data points, right? For people that are true researchers, it's all important to share these stories for the data, because a lot of these stories will have similarities. But the more and more I talk to people, and I'm referring back to something you mentioned maybe about 10 minutes ago, the encounters where a person has had an actual, not the 5 or 10-second encounter, but where, like, you had some sort, you had a nonverbal communication. There was something that you had, like, believe it or not, as crazy as it sounds, you had a bond. I find that people that, I'm going out in the woods to find Bigfoot, I'm going in the woods to do this, that, get me a picture, give me that $1 million video, get a track. Those people, they're far and few and in between that get anything. It's the guy like yourself, or what happened to me, and a lot of people that I come across, they don't even have an interest in Bigfoot.
Right.
The Bigfoot finds them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And the Bigfoot kind of maybe is more open with them than the person that wants the Bigfoot.
Yes.
Because these, you said beings. I think I like using the word being, because we don't know what they are per se. Right. So being, I always use that myself. So I think they feel more at ease with people that don't give a flying rat's ass. Right? Because you're not out for anything, and they can sense your intentions, which, of course, one of my new words that I've had for over a year now from the lovely KRISTA. She taught me the word intent.
You're right. Yeah. You do get that out there. They are drawn to that. And I know your encounter, you had an amazing encounter too.
Yep.
It's the spiritual aspect of it. Maybe they're there to actually teach us something. Like I said, I had the distinct feeling that I had a message to give to people. And let me tell you, you got to think back. This is pretty much almost before. It's right on the brink of having cell phones. Who am I going to talk to? Who am I going to tell this to? You know, this is back then. This was crazy. Now you're hearing a lot of this evidence coming out. You know, we're piecing together a lot of old stuff, but doing it in a new way. You know, by like what Rob is talking about, by taking these eyewitness encounters that people want to say, well, you can't really trust the eyewitness encounter. Well, there's always a piece of something in there, regardless of how many seconds that it was. There's always a little bit of something in there. Maybe there was a hand gesture or something. There's always something in there. The other thing that we want to consider too is we hear the words that we choose, like opinions or experts. Try not to use those words too much unless you really know what you're doing with them and you really stress that to the people that you're speaking with. Because when we say an expert, and this will be one of the things that I'll be talking to the children at the Moses Scout Reservation there.
Okay.
I'm going to ask them. I'm going to say, anybody here ever pick high bush blueberries? Not too many people have. You know, so you're going to get a few people to raise their hands. I'm going to say, do the rest of you, would you like to learn how to pick high bush blueberries? Yeah, of course they are going to want it. Well, the person who just raised their hands, you're expert. And the person that talks about the expert and so on and so forth. And you go through learning martial arts from dojo to dojo. You know, just because you have a black belt and I hold 4 separate black belts does not make me an expert. By no means. But I am an expert to that white belt or that yellow or that orange belt. I am an expert. Okay. So don't let anybody put you into that category. You are, if you know more than them, then you are an expert up to that point right there, and you're going to teach them. And that's my intention, is to teach them. I don't want them to be afraid of the woods, but nor do I want them to be out there looking for them. Let it happen.
Yeah.
It's kind of like finding a good spouse. Let it happen. You go looking for it, you're probably gonna fail.
Oh boy, you go looking for a spouse, my Lord.
Yeah, anything you might get lucky. You know.
Yeah, you can go looking after the 5th one. You might found true bliss. I don't know, but I got to tell you though, I like all your points because that's all I do. I know that's what the blondes and boos do. I love having people like yourself on to spread these encounters, and I also wrote the books and started this channel just to help people. Really, it's evolved. It's a little much more than that, obviously, but I walked alone for a long time, Ernie.
Yeah,
nobody helped me. Everyone thought I was ridiculous until I finally found some people that guided me through. And the best therapy I had was telling your story. And I use the word story. People say, Rob, don't say story because it's an encounter. Well, hey, listen, it's an encounter story, right? That's what I say. Story, I know everyone has a connotation of story as fiction. To me, it's not. Okay. So encounter story, however you want to call it. But these stories that we come across, and I even say, people say, well, how come you did a video, Rob, on Bigfoot crossing the road? That's boring. You mean to tell me seeing something that's not supposed to exist at 8 foot tall, 800 pounds, crossing in front of you on the road is boring? How can that be boring, Ernie? KRISTA, how is that boring? It's not boring to me.
No,
I can guarantee you the people in the chat room don't find that boring. I mean, I'm not going to have someone on the show to tell me that when we got to fill up 90 minutes to 2 hours. No, but thanks for the data, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You don't need, even in 5 seconds of something crossing the road, you might pick up something like, where did it come from? Where is it going?
Yeah.
You know, where what, you know, it could just be a trackway. Could this be how they're getting from point A to point B? All those things, very interesting. You know, even the people that may, you know, over exaggerate their encounter or whatever. You know when something like that is kind of going on, in a way, if you're trained a little bit for it. But you know, can you say that every person out there that comes to you, that it's not true? They believe it.
Right.
I can do that. That lady that came into my store that morning, she believed what she saw.
Absolutely.
You know, and I got to tell you right now, I didn't really totally believe it until it happened to me. And then you know what happened when that happened? I said, now who the hell am I going to tell? Who am I going to tell? So people out there that want to think that these things don't exist, if it happens to you, you better think of all the people that you made fun of and everything else.
Yeah.
Okay? Because you're going to be this person.
Absolutely.
Right.
In fact, they're going to have their tail between their legs. And another thing on the people that say it's boring, I find those people don't have an interest anyways. They're looking to just stir up some BS.
Yeah.
Right.
And I can't take them seriously.
Yeah.
Nothing about these subjects is boring at all. I don't find.
Mm-mm.
If I found it boring, I wouldn't be doing this.
Right.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, there is one thing out in them woods that would scare the heck out of me. These dog men.
Well, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
If they're running around out there, I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not going to be peaceful with them at all.
Well, they're not going to be peaceful with you either.
Right. Yeah,
that's a whole nother can of worms there. And we just about ran out of time, man. This has been a fantastic show, Ernie, brother.
Do I have a moment to make a plug here?
You got a moment. Well, I wasn't going to shut it down just yet. We're wrapping it up. We got, you can take as long as you like. Plug away.
I'll hit it up right now.
Yeah.
My thing that I'm trying to do right now is to get everybody to lock elbows on this communication on the next level, that we should go beyond footprints. You can't make soup out of footprints. You're going to starve. 50 years on footprints. Please lock elbows. Let's go. Let's go beyond hypothesis into theory.
Yeah,
Enough to communicate. And that being said, I have a little, I call it Etsy, but it's, what the heck do you call it? It's Etsy.
Etsy.
Okay, so it's New England Encounters, Etsy.com, and the artwork on the T-shirts was done for the show that I did with Sibylla Irwin, and that is pretty much all the sign language that's on there. If you see those, you want them on anything that's on there, because it costs money for every time you. If I did them all on different shirts, you pick out which one you want, and I'll put it on a hat. I'll put it on your mug. I'll put it on whatever you want, but I'm trying to push the sign language. So the next time you're out in the woods, and if one does happen to stance upon you out in the middle of the path and looks at you, you might want to consider the fact as, hey, hold on a minute, or any of the other sign language there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and funny you mentioned Sibylla, because I've known Sibylla for a long time. We're great friends. She did the artwork on my Bigfoot. She's going to be part of my Christmas, coming up into Christmas. And for those who've never seen Sibylla's work, here's my Bigfoot.
Awesome.
There's mine right there.
Yeah.
That's what I saw, the humanoid-looking figure on the left with that weird face. Kind of,
Yeah.
Whatever. And then when it roared, it raised the arms. That's what it turned into, which I always refer to as looking like a demon. Sibylla did that rendering. It took us... we didn't do this in 5 minutes. Let me put it to you that way.
Right.
It was hours upon hours, and she is so meticulous. She's a fabulous artist. So this is by the hand of Sibylla Irwin. What I saw June 15th of 2018. My Bigfoot, I guess. I call it a Bigfoot encounter. Not quite sure what it was when it did that metamorphosis, though. That to this day is definitely a mystery for me.
Mm-hmm.
Let alone, the death of my girlfriend at the time, as you all know, that follow me to any extent.
Right.
So, yeah, Sibylla's great. Love her.
Yeah.
She'll be a nice treat for the holidays, right around Christmas, I think, or Thanksgiving.
Beautiful.
We haven't locked it up yet.
For sure.
Wonderful woman, too.
Mm-hmm.
So, do the orbs have anything to do? Because I don't know if anybody's asked this question. Are orbs seen around these things? And that's, yeah.
Well, they are, from what I've been told, for sure.
And the guy that's doing that work out there, the research work out there, he's reported them. But he also used to work with the Warrens, and he's been in on 2 exorcisms. He knows his stuff. Let's face it, Rob, I don't know about you, but I don't like ghosts. I don't like things like that, because they got to be solid. I got to be able to kick them.
Well, I tell you what, yes, Chris, I've seen 1,000 ghosts in my lifetime. I've seen shadow people, Ernie. I could tell you some stories. One day we could have a beer somewhere. I've seen ghosts, shadow people. I've had an out of body experience. I almost astral projected. I've had mist roll down my floor. Yeah, I'm writing a book. My next book, by the way, everybody, is about my weird life.
Nice.
That's my 3rd book. Yeah.
Very nice. Well, let's just say, if we can have these orbs in the house,
Oh, yeah, I would not like to see
Why
that.
can't there be orbs in their house out in the woods? What if there are ghosts out in the woods? Let's face it, there were no houses at one time. Did ghosts just happen stance to say, hey, I'm not going to do a haunting or anything until somebody starts building a house? No, I think they were probably already out there. And that's what we're finding is a good possibility that are out there. They could be ghosts or whatever. You know, maybe these beings or maybe a Native American, who knows? But I will say this also, right just about where I had my encounter, within, I don't know, now it's probably 10 miles because JJ is a little bit closer, maybe the halfway mark. The University of Connecticut, I think it is, went in there because JJ, his father, they found a 4,000-year-old Indian settlement in there. So the what if goes on.
There's always a what if. We didn't even touch on the woo with the First Nations because I think there's more than one thing where it's going to Bigfoot. And last thing I'll say, get out of the Aper camp.
Yes.
I'm out in the Aper camp, man. I'm in the woo camp.
Yeah.
But I do think they're flesh and blood, which is weird to say. You know, it's kind of like an oxymoron. They're both.
You know, you got it.
Both.
I mean, you got it, because what would a ghost have to do with eating a deer? You know,
boy,
anything like that. So
we can go another 2 hours with that because I got plenty of those stories.
Yeah,
we gotta wind it down. KRISTA's got to go to work in the morning.
Yep.
I love everybody that came out in the chat. Thanks to the super chat from DJ Tyler Radio and from 12341234. That's awesome. Everybody, please subscribe if you're new to BMR, Bigfoot, Mr. Rob, the Blondes and the Booze Paranormal Podcast. Paranormal Paul was in the house. Shout out to him in Texas front porch.
Great.
Ernie, later, send me that link. I'll put it in the video for you so people can go check that out. 2 books for me on Amazon. Type Bigfoot, Mr. Rob in the browser. They both pull up. Choose one. Thank you, Mark. You're awesome for that super chat. Thanks, buddy. Mark always gives one at the end of the show. I love Mark. Thanks, Mark. So with that being said, thank you to everybody for coming on in. Today is Tuesday. Blondes, well, you guys got a show Wednesday, right? Don't you guys have Blondes and Booze now on Wednesday with Paul?
It's Brandy and Paranormal Paul, Donnie Cho, and Brandy. But
it's under the Blondes and Booze channel.
It streams under Blondes, yes.
Yes, go check that out Wednesday. And then Thursday, do you have anything interesting? Is it too early to ask what you got going on Thursday?
We do. We have Heather Mosier from Small Town Monsters.
Oh, yes. Heather's awesome.
She is awesome.
She's great. Awesome. Love Heather. Heather was on, I think, last month with us, so that was awesome. Yep. She's always great. That's a great channel.
Yeah.
She's a great girl. She's got a lot of knowledge as well. And, of course, Small Town Monsters is another one I recommend on YouTube as well. Okay, everybody. With that being said, I'll see y'all. I'll be on Thursday afternoon with Tex and maybe Brandy. She's been kind of getting off work early playing hooky. I don't know. Let's find out. With that being said, I got to find I got to be old Tex here. I got so much scrap in here. Here it is. I got it. Thanks, KRISTA. Thank you, Ernie.
You want me to hang on just for a second?
What?
You want me to hang on after?
Yeah, hang on for a minute. Yeah, we'll bullshit for a minute.
All right.
And we'll take it from there. KRISTA's probably going to go in a few minutes, but see y'all. All right, bye.
See ya.
Are you ready?